External communication refers to all methods and practices used by organizations to communicate with audiences outside the organization. This includes engaging with the media, voters, and the public through various channels to convey messages, policies, and campaign updates. Now, we can't possibly give you a full overview of all of this in a short video, but we'll give you some base tips to start. These work great, whatever, however, and to whomever you want to communicate. Before you speak, it is important to choose who you want to reach. We all talk differently to a pensioner than to a teenager. It is the same with communication from an organization. If you use the right tone and language, your communication will be much more effective. To do this, you need to put some effort and attention into who exactly you want to reach. So think about who they are. For example, how old they are, where they live, and what their interests are. With so much to think of, it helps to think of individuals instead of a group. The easiest way is to create personas. In other words, fake persons you want to talk to. For example, if you want to target female pensioners, you think of a person in that group and write down things about her. Let's call her Maria. Start with who she is, her background and basic information. For example, she is 75 years old, lives in a small village and has a low-income pension. Then continue to define what matters to her as a person. Maybe her grandchildren and the fact she cannot take a bus to see them anymore. And where does she get her information? Maybe she reads the local newspaper and hears much in her weekly church visit. No social media accounts for her. Once you have these personas, it is much easier to see how to best approach her. For example, which media to use to reach them. Talking to Maria on Instagram won't work, but an ad in the local paper does. And if you want to have a conversation with Maria, you might best reach her by going door to door. Or set up a stand at a local community festival where Maria goes with her church group. Everyone is different and needs a different approach. Catering to every single individual is impossible, but like with fictional Mary, it becomes very easy to understand your audience and target them by making personas. Now that you have defined who you want to reach and how, it is time to define what you want to say. Think about what you want to achieve with your message. Do you want to inform them, or do you want something concrete like their vote? Clearly defining this makes sure you stay on track. If you put too much or too many different messages into one, it will be less effective. If your goal is to get people to vote, then you can check all your messages with this goal in mind. Are you distracting them from this goal with other things in the message? Is the call to action clear? Are you motivating them enough? With the goal and the target audience in mind, you can now write the messages. Make sure the language, tone, and use of words fits your audience. Whoever it is though, a general rule to use is to make sure it is not all too complicatedly written, or keep it simple. See what I did there? And as with so many things, repetition here is key. But repetition only works if people know it's always you. Asking people to vote for you many times has no effect if they don't know it's you every time, or if it's with different messaging each time. So make sure your messages are consistent, in tone and core message, across channels. Even after all the thinking and planning you have done, it is unlikely that you got it perfectly right the first time. So make sure you measure how your messages are doing. On social media and with online newsletters, this can be easy, but you can also find ways to measure the reach of other messages. Of course, this is not usually an easy thing to measure. There might be many factors that add to some outcome, not just the one message you sent out. But still, it's important to measure what you can and test different approaches. Lastly, not every channel is good for every type of message. As obvious as it might sound, this gets forgotten a lot. TikTok videos are not a great place to give a full explanation of complex policy positions. And newspaper articles are not a great place for a silly joke. The other way around works perfectly though. So make sure you always think about what a channel is good for and who watches it. Use them in the best way and let them reinforce each other. Maybe someone watching a silly joke on TikTok will actually read your long newspaper opinion piece exactly because of this TikTok joke. If you use these basic rules in all your communication, you can easily optimize your reach. No matter how big or small, effective external communication starts with good targeting, not with volume.